Okay, so when I say Saint Francis, what do you picture? Probably a guy in a brown robe surrounded by birds, right? Well, today we're going to talk about a different Saint Francis, one whose story is, frankly, even wilder.
Yeah, you're almost certainly thinking of Saint Francis of Assisi, the gentle friar who could preach to animals. But there was another Saint Francis, and his connection with the animal kingdom went a step further. We're talking beyond conversation and straight into resurrection. So, let's get one thing straight. These are two totally different people. Francis of Paola was born centuries after his famous namesake. He founded his own religious order called the Minims, and he became the patron saint of sailors for a reason that is just absolutely mind-blowing.
All right, so our story kicks off in Paola, Italy, way back in 1416. There was this devout couple who were childless, and they prayed and prayed to Saint Francis of Assisi for a son. Well, their prayers were answered and they gratefully named him Francis. It was a name he was definitely going to live up to, just not in the way anyone could have possibly imagined. From a really young age, Francis was just different, super devout. After spending a year with the Franciscans and going on this life-changing pilgrimage, he made a choice that would set the course for the rest of his life. At only 15 years old, he decided to turn his back on society and live as a hermit, all by himself. So what does that actually mean for a teenager in the 15th century to just decide to become a hermit? Well, it meant choosing a life of radical, extreme simplicity.
I mean, for 6 straight years, he lived a life of total self-denial. He ate what he could find or what kind people might bring him. His whole life was just prayer and penance. This wasn't some teenage phase. This was him forging his entire identity in solitude.
But, a life of that kind of holiness, it rarely stays a secret for long. Eventually, word got out about this hermit, and pretty soon, other people started showing up, inspired to follow his extreme example. His life of solitude was about to get a lot more crowded.
So when Francis eventually started his own religious order, he didn't pick some grand, impressive name. No, he called them the Minims, which comes from the Italian word minimi. It means the least ones. The entire point of the order was to be the most humble, the smallest, the least important in the eyes of the world.
And this idea was literally built into their vows. The Minimus took the 3 vows you might expect: poverty, chastity, and obedience. But Francis added a 4th one, and wow, this one was incredibly demanding: a perpetual Lenten fast. Now, this wasn't just giving up meat for a few weeks a year. This was a lifelong pledge to a diet that avoided all animal products. No meat, no eggs, no dairy. For them, it was rooted in a deep principle of nonviolence towards all creatures. We would basically call it ethical veganism today. Pretty radical for the 1400s.
Francis's fame wasn't just built on his piety and his intense fasting, though. It got supercharged by these stories of incredible, seemingly impossible miracles, especially when it came to animals.
Okay, so get this story. Francis had this pet lamb he absolutely adored named Martinello. One day, some workmen who were building a monastery got hungry. They caught Martinello and cooked him in a furnace. When Francis found out, he was completely heartbroken.
Francis walked over to the furnace where, there was nothing left but bones and fleece. He looked into the fire and he just called out his pet's name.
And according to the story, Martinello leaped right out of the furnace, bleeding and totally fine, as if nothing had ever happened. Think about that. This isn't just healing. It's a complete reversal of death and destruction.
And believe it or not, it happened again. A visiting priest caught Francis's pet trout, Antonella, and fried her up in a pan. When Francis asked for the fish back, the priest got annoyed and just threw the cooked trout on the ground, where it shattered into pieces. Francis just calmly gathered up the pieces, put them back in the pond, said a prayer, and there she was. Antonella, whole again, swimming around like nothing happened.
So you have this humble hermit who just wants to be the least in the world, but he's also got this incredible world-altering power. That tension really defines the second half of his life, pulling him from his quiet cave right into the halls of immense power.
This is where the story takes a major turn. His fame reached one of the most powerful men in Europe, King Louis XI of France. Now, this king was a notoriously ruthless ruler, and he was on his deathbed, absolutely terrified of dying. He heard about the miracle worker from Italy and summoned him, hoping Francis could save his life. I mean, you literally couldn't imagine 2 more opposite people.
But just to get to the king, Francis first had to travel.
On his way, he gets to the stormy Strait of Messina. A boatman there refused to take him across to Sicily because Francis couldn't pay the fare. So what does Francis do? He just takes off his cloak, lays it on the water, steps on, and uses his staff as a mast to sail across. And that is the miracle that made him the patron saint of sailors.
Now, Francis didn't magically cure the king's illness, but he did stay with him, and he helped this terrified, powerful man find some peace before he died. And his influence didn't stop there. He actually stayed in France and left behind this legacy that was as complex as it was powerful.
When you look back, his legacy is just so multifaceted. He's the patron of sailors because of that unbelievable journey. He's the founder of a religious order built on radical humility. His ideas about nonviolence still resonate today with modern ethical movements. And somehow, this quiet hermit ended up as a trusted advisor to not one, but 2 French kings, even helping to negotiate peace between France and Spain.
Through it all, he lived this incredibly long life of extreme austerity, finally passing away on Good Friday in 1507. He was 91 years old. But the story has one more twist. Decades later, when his tomb was opened, his body was found to be incorrupt, perfectly preserved, which is considered a traditional sign of sainthood. But then, during the wars of religion, his remains were dragged out and burned by protesters. It was a final violent end for a man who championed nonviolence his entire life.
And that really leaves us with this fascinating question, doesn't it? Francis of Paola tried his entire life to be invisible, to be the least. And yet through these radical choices and incredible gifts, he became a figure who resurrected animals, advised kings, and is still remembered hundreds of years later. It really makes you wonder about the true nature of power and what it really means to leave your mark on the world. Thanks for tuning in.
Like, share, and subscribe to Perpetual Help.